goes. He's still got Mackay, still got Mackay, still got Mackay, and Mackay goals.
Gibbons talk about selling candy and kicking a beauty.
What about this ball inside 50? Control from nowhere. Wasting no time, Jack News. Set shot. He strikes it beautifully. He's got it. The Blues win it. Jack News after the siren has won the game for Carlton. That is unbelievable.
Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. Season 2021 is almost here, and Lockie, it's good to be back chatting about the Blues again.
It's been a bloody long time, my friend, and gee, I am just so hyped to get back talking about it again. I feel like we've hardly talked about the Blues these past few months, and it feels good.
Exactly. It's been ages, but I'm keen to get back into it. So with that, and before we get into our predictions for the new season, we thought we'd have a bit of a chat about the practice match with Essendon last week. So Lockie, do you have any big takeaways from that game?
Well, my biggest takeaway was probably that there wasn't a lot of negative takeaways that I saw from the game personally. We haven't really debriefed about this, but yeah, I just saw so many positive signs. I thought Sard was the biggest one for me that stuck out. It was kind of like, yeah, this is what we were after. The intercept marking, the run and carry. Everyone's obviously talking about that play where he streams through the middle and kicks it to Cripps. Like, that's just...
It was unreal.
That must have got you up and about.
It did, yeah. Look, he just fit in so perfectly just from the start. It sometimes, and obviously it's only one practice match, so we're not going to go overboard here, but there's so many times with a new player where you go, okay, they'll just need a couple of weeks to settle in, but it was like he'd been playing for us forever. It was seamless is the perfect word to describe Sard's performance. I'm so excited to see just exactly everything we thought that he'd bring. It looked like that's what he's going to do. So I'm keen to see him moving forward. Another one that I absolutely loved was Mark Murphy. We talked a lot about him last season and where he'd going to fit into this team. He looked great on the half forward. He has that goal sense, and you know, I expect him completely to just kick a couple of snags out of nowhere, a couple of bananas this season. And the fact that he uses the ball so well, I love that he's going to be that guy delivering that ball inside 50. Our inside 50 entries was something that we struggled with last season. It's a big talking point, but I like him there to deliver the ball for our big forwards.
Yeah, and on that, I mean, him and Kerno are one of those talking points where it's like, where, and Betts as well, actually, like, where are they going to fit this season?
Yeah.
And are they looking to get pushed out of the side? And I agree with you, Murphy. He's not looking like that at all after the game. So, yeah, that was a real positive sign for me as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Ed Kerno there, which was interesting. Noted that pretty much for the whole game until real late in that last quarter, didn't attend a centre bounce. So... don't know how much we can take from that, whether they were just looking to try guys because, you know, Fogarty was in there a little bit. They chucked Cunningham in for one. So not too sure if that's just the actual plan for him because he played primarily on the wing, which I don't know about you, but I'm not a massive fan of that.
No.
Just the fact that he doesn't have the pace, doesn't have the great skills, to be honest. His disposal is not his strong suit. He's great when he's in the middle, you know, winning the ball out, dishing it out to our good users. And I just worry if that's where we're going to play him, that we're not going to be using the ball great and he might go missing like I felt he did in that game.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to see how the centre bounce combinations play out because the Cripps, Walsh, Williams one just seems so perfect. And then, you know,
I agree.
And then, yeah, the guys like Setterfield and Cunningham, like you said, like, I don't know. I just don't know where Kerno's going to even get that chance within the season. So, yeah, we'll see what his role is going to be.
Exactly. But it's a good question to have, being like, Ed Kerno, who finished, third in our best and fairest last season. Where can he play? Is he even our best 22? It's a question that we're asking, and that just shows some good development from these young kids, which one that everyone wants to talk about. Big Paddy Dow. What a performance from him. My
goodness.
The biggest thing, I'm not going to go and just go absolutely insane already over this man, but what I was happy with, I'm going to keep myself composed, but I was happy that he looked confident. Confidence is the word I'm going to use with Paddy Dow because so much, you know, last season he started against Richmond, played honestly one of his worst games I think he'd ever played for us, and he looked lost. And one of the things he missed so much last season was really no like VFL, and he got injured. And he played again, I think, late in the season, played like 1 or 2 games and just didn't look amazing. But this time, he's had a preseason. He's fit, he's firing, and it looks like he has his confidence back. Those little moves, the little shimmies, the spins, it's exciting. If he can play anything like he did in that practice match, he's going to be exciting to watch this year.
I mean, he was fending guys off. Where has that... That is not something I feel like we've ever seen. And like, you're right, like the sidestepping, it's like, wow, like... Yeah, the confidence is there, and there's so much to like there. Oh my God.
And we don't even, he doesn't necessarily need to be in our best 22 at the start of the year either, because we've got enough guys there that it won't matter if he spends a couple of games in that VFL, getting that confidence in actual proper matches, not like 6 on 10 or whatever the hell they were playing last year, some proper games. So I'm excited about Paddy Dow this season. And another guy, there's so many guys to talk about here, but I loved Will Setterfield's performance. They chucked him out on a wing, which was a little bit different. He didn't really attend many centre bounces. I'm not sure he attended any, actually, which is strange considering it was one of our best last year, but played on the wing and also floated a bit in that sort of half-back position. Really liked his performance. Not sure how you felt, but the word I had written down was just professional performance. He went there, did his role, and did it so perfectly. Could not have asked for much else. What did you make of his performance on the wing?
Yeah, no, exactly the same. I know he had the most disposals on the ground, and he's a big candidate to take a big step this year, I feel, because like you said, he took that step last year, which was awesome, but he can, maybe the wing is going to be his spot. You never know.
Exactly. It could be anything, and I like the fact that he looks versatile enough that he looked fine there. It wasn't like Ed Kerno where you're going, should he really play on the wing? He looked good, and it's just another option. But speaking of options, or maybe lack of options, probably the big negative I saw from the game was our forward line and just lack of key forwards and even lack of ruckman by the end. The big question I have for you is, what do we do round 1 if Levi, Gov, and TDK aren't available? What is that forward line?
It is a fantastic question. And wow, I'm pretty sure we ended the season last year with, the show last year with that question, and the forward line being our biggest, talking point. And wow, and you add Charlie Curnow to that mix as well, obviously, of the best guys that we'd have there. Gee, it's tough. I think Silvani it will slot in, and he's going to play that kind of semi-tall option. But, gee whiz, you're not wrong.
It's thin.
You got Brad in the ruck, and if he's not in there, what is... Yeah,
it's so hard. Yeah, like Jesus, I thought played decently. He competed well. Like, he did well a lot of the times to bring the ball to ground when I thought he had no right to even get his hand on the footy at some occasions. But, it's not like having Levi or even Gov there that... They're just bigger bodies. They can take that grab. I'd much rather Jesus being able to be that third tall, the dynamic sort of half forward there, which it looks like if we have these injuries, he's just not going to be able to play that role. It's worrying. I liked what our smalls were doing, but it looked like we were still playing as if we had those 3 talls with the way we were entering the ball into the forward 50, which that maybe worries me a little bit, because if it's just Silvani and Harry, we're going to have to change how we move the ball, how the forwards structure is, how the smalls are all moving around. And I feel like we didn't do that in the practice match, even though we won comfortably and things did look good. That's probably my biggest worry at the moment. I heard someone bring up, I can't remember who it was, but someone mentioned maybe just Cripps have to rotate more down in the forward line, which is not a horrendous shout as far as Cripps being in the forward line. I like that. But that's just going to obviously take away so much from our midfield, which is where we're really trying to build at the moment. And, we just need some more forwards, which maybe ties into my next question for you. We've still got one list spot available. We've got a couple that could take it. We've got Oscar McDonald, Callum Moore, and there's another youngster. Unfortunately, can't remember his name, which is not good for the podcast. But I don't think anyone is necessarily expecting him to take that spot.
I have no idea who you're talking about, so we can leave him off.
Who out of Moore and McDonald are you taking?
Oh, mate. That's a tough question.
It's not a good choice. It's not a good choice either.
It's tough. I initially leaned towards Oscar because it's like just, another just kind of fresh face and something different. And we know that he can, he can play well. Whereas with Moore, the couple of games that he's played for us, we kind of, we were maybe a little bit disappointed in what we saw. But he is very flexible. And you and I spoke after the trade period, and I think one of our biggest concerns was us not getting just another ruckman to back up. And if Brad is to go down for whatever reason, I genuinely have no idea what they're going to do for a starting ruckman if TDK is not right. So that
it has to be like Levi,
Callum.
but he's not even fit at the moment. So
exactly.
It's just, what do you do? And I think you're right there. I think it just on our injuries at the moment, it has to be more. They tried McDonald a little bit in the ruck in that practice match, and it was just clearly not his position. We're pretty thin down back as well. If we have a big, like, if Liam Jones does his ACL, there is no one to come in. It would have been Marchbank, but he's not necessarily fit. It'd be Parks, who's never played a game before. It's a little bit worrying there. But then again, if a ruckman goes down, we have no one. At least Moore is a body. He can go up forward potentially if we need, or at least allow Brad to go down there. Which, okay, before we go any further, we need to touch on this. We've been calling Mr. Pitnett, Mr. Pitt himself, Brad, from the start of this podcast. It has not caught on. I think we're the only people that have been calling him Brad this whole time. And now it turns out the Carlton players are calling him Brad. So I want them to own up. You're clearly listening to this podcast. So when this episode drops, just tweet us. Let us know who you are. You can come on the podcast. We know you're big fans. Yeah. But, just make yourself heard.
I love it. I didn't think you were actually going down that route. I thought you were going to talk about the man taking a big mark and kicking a nice goal.
He looked good.
He did.
He looked good. I don't mind him up forward if, maybe that's how the forwards will work if TDK's there. If he's able to do anything like that in an actual game, could be exciting down there. But I've done my research just quickly, and it's not even just one player who we missed there, who is a train-on player at the moment, which was Xavier Ma, I believe is how you pronounce his name. But mate, Crocker. We've still got Crocker down there, who kicked about 4 goals in a scratch match that's also training, which, not bad. I don't mind that because he clearly showed something as a bit of a small forward, but I think, with our needs, it's probably, unfortunately, and no disrespect to the man, probably going to be Callum Moore that takes that list spot out of necessity. But look, to be honest, I don't think any of those are incredible options, and it's just going to be a body at the end of the day.
Yeah, agreed.
But the biggest takeaway, I think, from any preseason game, and I need to get your thoughts on this, it's been heavily debated for pretty much the whole preseason since this got announced. I need your thoughts on the new stand rule in the AFL. Lockie, hit me with it.
Well, I'll start by asking you a question in reply. Have you seen a single person show support for this rule or bring forward any logic as to why it's good?
Oh, I haven't. I have not. Like, the AFL have said why they've introduced it, and I think if you look on the surface level for the reason of introducing, you go, okay, open the play up a little bit. Yeah, that sounds good to me, but it's just what it does, the negative side to it that I can't stand, for an awful choice of words there. But yeah, it's because I've heard people debate different elements of the rule. And I found this a little bit interesting where someone was saying, because there's been some shocking decisions been made recently that have all gone on like Twitter. You've seen the videos and you're just tearing your hair out at these 50-metre penalties that are just leading to easy goals. And the fact is, one person made an interesting point saying that, look, the umpires are saying to stand there, you cannot move. And so far, every single decision under the actual rule itself is correct. There is no interpretation if it's simply you cannot move on the mark, and therefore the players should know to 100% not move. And for that point of view, where there's like no need for interpretation, that's okay. But I think the big issue for me is, and I saw it in the practice match with Ed Kerno, all he did was take like 2 steps backwards. Which is not why they brought the rule in for the first place. The whole reason they brought it in was they don't want guys moving laterally and blocking off, that inside kick into the corridor. If he's simply moving backwards, I get that they don't want you to move at all, but I don't want guys getting penalised 50 metres in front of goal for a guy not impeding on why you brought the rule in the first place. It just seems ludicrous to me. And yeah, I'm not a fan, and I can expect that round one, in particular, the first game, Carlton-Richmond, there's going to be some big 50-metre penalties that'll get everyone talking.
Yeah, you just have to wait for one of them to decide a game, don't you? And then the uproar is just going to be insane. Yeah, everything you said I agree with. It's just like, it just doesn't seem to make the game better.
I 100% agree. So, look, that's our little bit of a chat on the practice match. So let's get into our predictions, and we will start hot. I want to go big, and that's why the first prediction is bold predictions. Now, we asked a couple of you guys out there before we recorded this for your bold predictions, and I'm going to read out a couple. So we've got one in from Kano. He said, Will Setterfield to make the All-Australian 40-man squad. I love that.
Great.
Big shout. We've just talked about him, said, can he take that next step? Kano reckons he will, so we all love that one. We've got the next one from Daniel Britton. He says the Blues will finish 4th or 6th, around that area, and Cripps to win the Brownlow, which, that would be absolutely tasty.
The dream.
We've got one from Clive. He says we finish 8th, and this was the bigger part to it that I liked, a bit in being nice and bold, was Charlie Curnow plays every game in the second half of the season. So I think that is bold. I'm not too sure if we'll see him at all at this stage, to be honest. I'm definitely on the negative side of the Charlie Curnow injury, but that would be marvellous. And the last one is from your man himself, Big Mark Lydiard, saying Blues to make top 4, and we love to see that.
It's bold, but it's possible. I love Mark's optimism always.
Exactly. So, Lockie, we've been talking about this a lot in the off-season, off the podcast, this bold prediction, so I'm keen to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I like it. Well, I've got a couple down. I'll start off with one which might just be a bit of a warmer take.
I like that.
Rather than too bold. But I don't think that Durden, Carroll or Parks, any of them will debut this year. I think with the
That's
depth,
a huge call.
With the depth that we have, well, we know that we like what we see from those boys, but I just have a feeling that they're just going to put those boys away for this year and we'll be able to get it done with the other guys.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Parks and Carroll, I don't think we'll really see those. Durden's probably the one I expect to see, or probably I want to see.
Yeah.
But honestly, I do get your point where I can see a world where, Fisher's playing well, Betts still has something in the tank, Gibbons and these other guys, Fogarty maybe, playing really well as these small forwards, and we just don't need to see him. He can just develop away like none of our ever first-round draft picks have ever been able to do over the past 10, 15 years. So
exactly,
that would be a nice world to live in.
Exactly. I'm banking on the fact that we're going to have a good injury season for once. It feels like we're due for one of them, even though we've got a few out at the moment. But yeah, hope that's bold enough for you. You give me one of yours.
I like that. I like we're starting low and we'll go to the big one. So I'm going to do the same. I've got Jack Newnes stays in our best 22 for the whole season.
I like that a lot.
I just think, it's one of those that he's a player I don't think anyone's been hyping or talking about all season. We've brought in a few guys near his position in the midfield, half forward, but I just loved what he did last season in his role. He could do anything you needed him to do. Pretty much that 6, 7 out of 10 every week, kicks an amazing goal after the siren, does what he needs to do, and I just see a big role for him still in 2021.
Yeah.
Hit me with another bold prediction. Let's get warmer.
I like that a lot, to be honest. I like it a lot. All right, next one. Now, this would be pretty unheard of for us, but I can definitely see it happening. I'm going to say that we're going to have 3 guys in the All-Australian 22.
I would love that to happen.
And the reason that that's going to happen is Cripps is going to make it because he's going to
lock him in.
He's going to be a Brownlow contender this year. We all know that, as long as he's healthy. And then I think Wiedering's going to make the step this year. Now that he won the best and fairest. He's a bit more in the spotlight now. So I think
very stiff not to make it. Very stiff not to make it last year as well.
Absolutely. I think even if he just plays as good. He's now more known to the AFL community, so I think he'll be there. And then thirdly, I think Sardi is going to take another step forward.
Huge.
And that's going to put him in. And that's 3 guys. I don't know the last time we did that, but there was 4 teams last year that had 3 All-Australians. So I think we can be one of them.
Is it wild that when you were saying that third player, before you said it, I had multiple different guys in mind, which is crazy to think. And it's not even like a big nuffy comment of being a massive Carlton fan. It's just, you could have easily have made an argument for Walsh, and I wouldn't have called you crazy. One for Harry, if he ends up kicking a bag, he would have to be there if he was up in the Coleman. So, and even like a Williams coming over, there's a chance that he takes that big step and becomes a dominant, midfielder. There's multiple guys that it genuinely could be, and that's just going to make us such a better side for this season. That's an exciting one. I like that. I like that heaps.
Love it. Give me one.
I'm saving my big one, but I'll give you this one because I thought this was quite funny. I'm not too sure how bold this is because I almost think it will happen. But I've got Lockie Plowman in round 1 to give away the first 50-metre penalty due to the stand rule. Richmond kicking a very important goal that changes the game, and Blues Twitter erupts.
Wow. That is... I love that prediction, but I also...
It's probably not bold enough, I'll be honest.
The poor man. When's he going to get the respect from the Twitter community?
Exactly.
Honestly.
Finished 4th in our BNF, I believe. He's always around there. We love the plough at Navy Blue Corner, but I just had to chuck that one in there. Do you have any more bold predictions for me at all, or was that your couple there?
Give me your boldest one. Come on.
I was firstly, I'll say what my original bold prediction was going to be until we had Kempy get injured. My big one was going to be that Kemp and Stocker, by the end of the season, take over Murphy and Curno's not only roles in the midfield, but roles in the side completely. Fortunately, with Kemp going down, I don't think that's going to happen, but... I'm a little bit worried about the reaction to this bold prediction because it is that Corey Durden will be our second highest goal scorer for the season.
Whoa, that is
bold.
Red hot. Wow.
Yeah, you don't even have him playing a game, so that could be a little bit of an issue in my bold prediction, but I just have a feeling that if he plays, I don't know what it is. There's probably no actual judgment properly behind this. There's just a gut feeling that if this man comes into the side, he's just going to set the world and the league alight.
Well, mate, this is why we do bold predictions. It's so you can just put crap out there, and then when it comes close, you can just put this soundbite out there.
Exactly. And then when he plays 0 games for the season, we can play your soundbite at the end of the year.
See, we're covering our bases. We should get some more takes of just everything in between. No, I like that. That's good.
Definitely bold. So we'll probably jump into the next of our predictions, and it's another big one, best and fairest. Who takes it out for us?
Yeah, well, it was a great best and fairest last season because we had, it was quite close and it was out of a couple of guys. But I do think that this season it's going to be Cripps as a clear winner. I think if he remains healthy this year, which I think he will, I think he's going to be a runaway.
I like that. It makes sense. I've given it to Sammy Walsh. I think he was very close in the last season. It looks like he's going to attend pretty much all the centre bounces now, and it might be unfair to Cripps because I feel like he'll be the one giving the ball to Walsh, but Walsh will make it look even better because he will be the slightly flashier player, and I think he may just steal a couple of votes from that and end up winning it. So
do you think Walsh is going to get his AA berth then?
I do have him penciled in. My two were, I think those were the 3. Cripps, Walsh and Wiedering were my 3.
Yeah.
But I think we'll take it out.
I love it.
Beautiful. So now we've got a fun one. We've got players to watch. We've been talking about a few already. Hit me with the guys that you think will be exciting that maybe aren't in everyone's thoughts already.
Oh, really? Is there players that everyone's hyping up as being able to take that step? I'm not sure who you're referring to. I did have Dow written down with a bit of a cross through him because everyone is...
It's so obvious now. now.
This man could have average 20 disposals a game now, and people are going to be disappointed. So that's good. He's set the bar high. I think Willow is really exciting because if he does push up the ground like we hope that he will, and he starts getting more of the ball, he's just one of those guys that whenever he gets the ball, magic just seems to happen, and we just love what he does. So I think if he starts getting more of the ball, he can, take a big leap forward.
Yeah, I really like that. I honestly had like a little bit of a note when I was writing a bunch of my bold predictions as just this wasn't necessarily one, but I had Willow becomes one of our most important players and potentially more important than Saad down back. And it wasn't necessarily that he'd be a better player, but I just felt that what he would bring to this team, you mentioned his potential to go on the wing, deliver that ball inside 50. The way he played in that scratch match, which we didn't even touch on, he was just, every time he got the ball, he made something happen. And he just looked so great. The chase down tackle. Yeah, I love that as a players to watch.
And I did notice a lot of people in the Carlton community obviously are doing their best 22s at the moment, and a fair few are leaving him out. And that's me.
Strange.
That's me trying to understand whether we are, overhype him ourselves or whether it's these people underestimating. Because I do feel like I completely agree with you that he could become one of our, top half most important players with what he can bring.
Yeah, definitely the fact that he can play those dual positions. I love it about him. That's interesting that, some people maybe don't rate him as highly as us. So let us know what you think of Willow. We will be doing best 22s at some stage over the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for that. But yes, let us know if he's in yours because we love to know if anyone actually thinks what we are thinking.
Yeah, did you have any players to watch?
I did. So obviously, Paddy Dow would have been in there. I had hyped him up all pretty much off season when we were doing the trade episodes and chatting about looking forward to the 2021 season. So I'm pretty disappointed that he's happened to have his breakout game before we've been able to record this episode because then I can't have him in here. I just look like everyone else. So who I had first up, who I've already mentioned, is Corey Durden. I've penciled him in to kick the second most goals behind Harry, so he has to be my players to watch. I think there's that one spot probably available in that forward pocket still. Zach Fisher occupies one. There's a bunch of guys that I think could take that other spot with, Eddie Betts still being there, a Gibbons, there's a couple other guys around, and I think that spot's up for grabs. He's young, he's hungry, he can take that, and I'm excited to see what he can bring to this side.
I like it. I like that a lot. And that's obviously the reason why I had that bold prediction around those three guys is just the number of guys that are looking to take those spots. But it probably wouldn't take a whole lot for him to, push his way in and then, remain there. So I like it. I like that a lot.
Exactly. So hit me with another play to watch, Lockie.
Well, this one, it's a bit of a... He's in a couple of categories at the moment, but I'll say JSOS because
I like it.
I'm going to say I'm on the higher side of him at the moment, just because we haven't seen him in so long, and we know that he has the potential and he's shown really good signs. But I've just got a good feeling about him now. Maybe without Sauce at the club, maybe that takes some of the pressure off him. I don't know. I feel like the expectations are so low for him now that I'm going to put him... I kind of had him as the under the pump category a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm going to lean more as a player to watch, as someone that we're maybe expecting to be fringe 22, but at the end of the season we're saying, okay, Silvani is one of the most important parts of our forward line and his spot is cemented.
Yeah, I rate that call, and I like what you said with the pressure and the expectations. It's insane how much this squad's grown over the last few years where he's a player now that I don't think anyone's really expecting, necessarily him to be in the best 22. So he can pretty much go through this season without that sort of weight on his shoulders. Yep. And I'm like you, I'm pretty bullish on what he can do this season. Just the fact that he is that mid-sized forward that we don't necessarily have. We've seen he's gone into the midfield a couple of times, played really well. I'm definitely happy to have him in a players to watch for sure.
Love it. Give me one.
So I've got Lockie Fogarty. I'm going all the new guys, basically. He's cool. My list, but interesting. So I'll be honest, I have not seen a ridiculous amount from this guy when he did play for Geelong. I haven't watched heaps of Geelong games, but seeing, again, slots in our team where they're up for grabs. That half forward, that wing role, that floating throughout. There's a bunch of guys that can do it. And this guy was not on Geelong's list for no reason. He wasn't getting games for them if he didn't have any talent. He's been in an elite system, and I'm excited to see what he brings. I was surprised a little bit that in the practice match they trialled him a little bit in the centre bounces. That's not something I necessarily really expected from him. When they said that he was training with the midfield group, I was just expecting, maybe he plays on the wing, does maybe like what a Mickey Gibbons did around the stoppages. So I feel like the club's really bullish on him and expect to see him a lot. Like, it would not surprise me if he's just locked straight away in the best 22 come round one.
Interesting.
So I feel like because the club are hyping him up so much, they have to see something in him, and I think he will be someone that, even in the trade period, we didn't necessarily go big on him. It was Sard, it was all about Williams. He was someone that slid under the radar. I think it'll happen again, and I think he'll shock us all.
I like it, man. It's so hard for me to see, what this lineup is going to look like when it comes to round one. Because I'm with you, I could totally see him being cemented in there, and I could also see a world where he is just put to the bottom. Players are really going to have to prove themselves. It's such a good position that we're in.
Yeah, a guy has a couple of bad games, and unfortunately, we're going to have to drop you because someone else is playing amazing in the twos, and it's going to be good. It's going to mean that there's finally this expectation on the club. We're talking finals.
Yep.
It's the pressure's there, and it's such healthy pressure for once instead of it all being doom and gloom.
Mm-hmm. Yep, couldn't agree more.
So did you have any other players to watch?
The one other guy I wanted to put out there is Stocker, because
I like it.
He's another one that has been a little bit forgotten, I feel, like over the last year. Obviously not playing any games last season. So, I'm not saying it's going to be easy for him to push into the side with the position that he plays. But I think when he does get that opportunity, I think it's the right time. He's a bit older now. He's already 21. He's only played the 5 games, and I feel like once he gets the chance, he'll take it and he can, cement his spot, as all these guys are trying to do. I'm excited to see him out there.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see Stocker. I was pretty disappointed, and I want to get your take on the fact that him, Gibbons, and O'Brien pretty much played like 10, 15 minutes in that scratch match against the Bombers. Stocker's one that I was super high on when we drafted him. Played a couple of games, and he was one that when you compared him to someone like a Paddy Dow over the past, couple of years, it was the fact that Stocker had that confidence. When he came into the team, he was trying to take players on, and sometimes he got pinned, holding the ball, and it didn't always come off. But I loved the fact that he had that confidence and belief in himself to go, I don't care, I'm going to prove that I'm better than you, and I'm going to bust through this pack. And It's a quality we need from these youngsters, to be confident and just bring their skills, bring their, best traits about them into the team, because it's the only way that they're going to grow. It's the only way that we're going to get better. And look, we haven't seen him last year, unfortunately. So he's one that we keep bringing in these good young midfielders. Everyone does forget about that we even have Stocker on the list. So it definitely would not surprise me if he jumped in at some stage and then just kept that spot in the best 22, because I do think he has the ability. But again, he's another guy that just doesn't have that pressure. And it's so exciting that these guys can be playing their best footy, get that confidence in the VFL, and just then dominate when they finally come into our squad.
It's just such a fantastic position that we're in. I feel like when we were doing this show 1 year ago, we were, saying we had a huge list of blokes that were like, okay, these guys are under the pump. The pressure is on. They've got to perform now. And now, obviously, we're going to get to those guys, but it just seems so much smaller, and the pressure is off a lot of these guys, even though the expectations for the whole team are higher. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you on that. Definitely. Like, even though they're still, some of those might still be under the pump, because the whole team has gotten better around them.
Yeah,
we don't need them 100% to be that next guy, because we have another guy. Like, we brought in a Zach Williams, so the pressure on Paddy Dow having to be the best player in the AFL is taken off him.
Exactly.
So I absolutely love it. Probably my last player to watch that I had, and it's if this guy can be healthy. Caleb Marchbank. I want to see him back so much. It just seems like he's always 2 to 4 weeks away from training or 2 to 4 weeks away from playing. It's frustrating. I think that now he's at that stage where if he can get his body right, we've forgotten about him so much, especially being in this team. It looks like the back line is, we always say it's the strongest position in this squad. We've got so many guys that can float in around there that we've forgotten what Marchbank is as a player. And he's another guy that could just come in there and he has something different, which is what I love about our back line. You've got these fast guys that can just continually run and rebound off halfback. You've got some shutdown players, and he's that intercept marker that I think we're still really lacking. I love that the guy that we did draft, Parks, seems to be that same sort of player. So it's almost a bit of an insurance policy that potentially if Marchbank can't get fit, we've got a younger guy to develop playing that role. But because we did draft someone like him, it makes me believe that there's still clearly that role outlined, that we don't have really anyone else in the team that can do it. So I would just love to see him come in, get a stretch of, 10 games in a row, because I think we'll really see just what he can bring to this squad that we're currently missing right now.
He's just about the most forgotten out of everyone. He was the number 6 draft pick. He's played less than 50 games and he's only 24. That's
insane.
Oh, he could still be anything. We were so pleased with what we were seeing from him a couple of years ago. And who knows, he might come back light years better than he was.
Yeah.
And we're all going to be shocked. And so I love that as one to watch.
Beautiful. So give me your players under the pump. These are guys that obviously, as the title suggests, there's a lot of pressure on them this year. Who have you got?
Yeah. Well, I'll start off. Not really, I wouldn't say under the pump, but I feel like there's a fair bit of pressure on him. And this might surprise you, but I'm going to say Brad. Because Brad, I think there's going to be pressure on him because we're looking at him as the sole ruckman now. Going into last year, obviously, Cruiser was the main guy until, halfway through the first game.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, okay, Pitt is now the replacement for Cruz, and we'll see what he can do. But the club have gone in with him this season as, all right, Pitt and TDK, you guys are our ruck options. And with TDK injured at the moment, I think there's just going to be a bit of pressure on him to see how we go. And it will, the club will be looking to be like, okay, is Pitt part of our future, or are we going to have to look at someone else to pair with TDK as Casbolt gets a bit older? So I think that he'll just have that bit of pressure on him. Definitely not under the pump, but I think he'll be doing his absolute best to make sure that he's making a statement.
Yeah, I don't mind that shout. I think that, you're pretty spot on with that, where last season we went into the season and it was just Cruiser. We've got this Pitt bloke. If he can maybe play a couple of games, if Cruiser does break down, that'll be okay. We've also got this TDK youngster that we think is going to be a superstar. And then it was basically those two having to ruck the whole season. And now that TDK is out, I think we both probably agree that we had De Koning as the number one ruckman, and that whether Pitt played, whether he didn't, we were not certain of that. It depended if they wanted to go the 2 ruckman or just the one, but we have TDK above him because of the potential and everything.
Yep.
And now TDK is injured, so it's basically him and no one else is rucking. So I agree with you that it's not like make or break, but this is going to be his best chance to show that, hey, I'm the number one ruckman. TDK, you're not coming back into this squad because I'm going to dominate. I can play down forward. I can kick some goals. I can do everything that they've been saying that TDK brings that I don't. And I'm going to lock myself in. And so I agree. There's probably a bit of pressure there for him to show it, because if he doesn't, and then, Tom comes in, not that he's going to get dropped off the list or anything, but they might look for a third option. Whether they draft another young kid, whether they try to find another experienced ruckman, maybe like the Doggies did, bringing in like Stephen Martin as someone to help develop TDK further.
Exactly.
It's an interesting one. I love that shout.
I appreciate that. You give me one of your under the pump.
So I'll try and match you with that one. I won't go one of my obvious ones, and I'll go Nick Newman.
Cool. I like it.
So basically, he's injured again. It's nothing against him. He's coming back from a big injury. There's always going to be little setbacks. But even if he was fit, this was a guy I had penciled in for being under the pump. It's not as if, like you're saying with Brad, where it's, get him out of the squad, get someone else in. It's more our backline is so stacked now. Mm-hmm. There are so many players coming in, and then basically we brought in Sard. Doherty's there. Willow's developing. They're keeping SPS down there at the moment. Plowman, if Marchbank comes back, does he get a spot there? They were training Brody Kemp down there as well, so that's another potential option. Mm-hmm. So where does Nick Newman fit in? Is he a best 22 player? You can argue it. I don't know if he is, if everyone's fit. You can sort of make a debate either way. So for me, he's someone that's under the pump because once he does get fit, he's going to be fighting hard to get into that best 22 just because there's so many good players that have played some really consistent football down there. And so he's got to have to try and do his best to break in, which is a good thing. I'm happy we have him there as a depth option. But yeah, I think he has a bit of pressure to really break his way back into the squad, which I think he can do because I do really like him. I
really, really agree. And I love putting him on the spot. Do you know how old he is?
Ooh, I'd hazard a guess at 25.
Oh, that has revealed you. The man is 28.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah.
That's got me shook.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I definitely would have said 25 or 26. So he's definitely in a different age bracket to a lot of those guys in the defence that we're saying. And yeah, I'm with you. We love how our defence is looking. It's going to be tough to push into.
Yeah, he's one that he's been around for a while, obviously, with his age there, but he hasn't played a lot of games. Looking now, 53 games, because, he just could never break into Sydney's team.
Yep,
came to us, played, then got injured, and now he might have that same issue with Sydney where there's just other guys around him. That's going to be a hard one. So, yeah, give me another player under the pump.
Well, very similar to him, but in a different position. I just don't see how Kennedy is going to be able to push into the midfield. Oh, and there was a lot of speculation about him being on the trade table, and like if someone was going to get traded, it was going to be him. Didn't happen, but I just don't see how he comes in because there's just all these blokes like Stocker and Kemp, just as a couple of those really young guys, and I don't know. I just feel like the pressure is on him that if this season he doesn't show something and push his way into the side, I just don't see how he can stay on the list a whole nother season. And I know we both like him. Like nothing against him, as a player, and he did some great things last year, and we were high on him. But I just don't see how it's going to happen for him this year. So I think he's under the pump in that regard.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. It's something that we probably spoke on quite a lot last season where a lot of fans were asking, where's Kennedy? Is he in our best 22? And it just came down to the fact that you look at that midfield makeup, particularly last season, and when you've got Cripps, who isn't necessarily fast, isn't necessarily the best ball user by foot, you've got Ed Curnow, you got Will Setterfield, who's not necessarily quick. I think is a lot better with his kicking.
Yeah.
But can you have Kennedy in there again? Another guy who's not known for like his defensive side of the game. When he did come in, he looked really good. And that's probably the hardest bit. That game against Brisbane last year came in, looked really good. But I think with the makeup that we have, throwing in a guy like Walsh, throwing in a Williams now, with a developing Dow, there's just too many players in his position that you'd almost rather see because... Not that Kennedy can't improve and take his game to a next level, but there's just probably more excitement around a guy like a Stocker, a guy like a Dow, a guy like a Kemp that you'd rather see what they have over a Kennedy.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really tough for him. There was a question that I think we can sort of touch on now from you guys. We asked if you guys have any questions. We'll get to all of them once we finish our predictions. But one was from Kano here. He said, will Matt Kennedy play many games this year? I think you've sort of answered that you don't think he can come in unless there's injuries.
Yeah.
The only thing... I personally don't see him playing many unless there's injuries as well.
Yeah.
An interesting point that I sort of thought was we were talking a little bit about Ed Curnow and whether he is one that might drop away a bit this year with someone else taking his position. Because he played a similar, I guess, role to what Kennedy will play, do you think we'll maybe keep Kennedy around as that Ed role not necessarily in our best 22, but in the squad? Do you think he maybe takes over that role, or would you rather just, he's played his time, he's had his time at Carlton, find someone else that can maybe be a bit better than we think Kennedy is?
Interesting call. I mean, I definitely agree with the similarities of the two. I mean, it's really hard for me to predict what the end of the season is going to look like for Curnow and those guys, like we said. Like, is it necessarily Curnow's last year? Like, if it's not, I wouldn't then be thinking that we're keeping Kennedy as a contingency just as that kind of player. I don't know. Yeah. It's hard. And it also just feels to me like when a player spends a number of years at a club like he has, like if he has one more year of being in for a little bit, out for ages and not showing enough, it just seems like those kind of players just end up getting turned over. Even if it's what we get in return is something very similar. It's just like you have that fresh outlook. I don't know. That's why it just feels to me like, this could be it, depending on how he, if he actually pushes through.
He probably could get a game at a lot of other clubs as well, being that inside midfielder. It's something that we seem to have sort of too many of. We needed these outside running midfielders, which is why we've gone and got Zach Williams. It's why Walsh has been moved into the guts a bit more. So I definitely agree that he probably would end up going at the end of the season if he didn't break into the squad.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's hard. Ed Curnow's a hard one. I feel like I've been very harsh on him pretty much after like one performance in a preseason match. But I think I'm just more excited about everyone else around that midfield mix. And just we know his limitations is probably the biggest thing for me on Ed, which is why I'll knock him. It's the fact that he doesn't dispose of the ball great. That's been our issue, moving the ball forward into the forward 50, that I'd maybe rather see some other guys there. But yeah, honestly, Ed could still be there around the squad for the next couple of years because he still can win the ball amazingly. We know he can do that shutdown role, and he's not finishing high in our best and fairest for no reason. He's clearly valued for the role that he's bringing to this team.
Well, that's exactly the point I was going to say. Like, we feel like he's going towards the end, yet you don't just finish top three in the best and fairest for no reason.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. I like it. Do you have someone more under the pump than the guys we've mentioned?
I'll just go one more under the pump. He's not necessarily ridiculously there because I think we could have mentioned guys like a McGovern, like an Eddie Betts.
Yep.
But I feel like they've just been talked about so much, so we don't really need to cover that. So one guy I thought to chat about was Mickey Gibbons. I hate saying it. I hated trying to get that one out.
Yeah.
But he's someone that has been somewhat fringish, I feel. Even though he's pretty much been in our best 22, there's always been calls of he's better played in the midfield, but we don't play him there. And now that we've got some more options that we've mentioned quite a lot in this episode down forward, it's that, is he going to play there? Is he going to move higher up in that half forward and push a little bit higher up the ground? I mean, I love what this guy brings, and I will make a big shout now. I still have him in my best 22 starting.
Me too.
But he's someone that it would not surprise me if there was a world that, someone else takes his position because they either prefer a different midfielder like a Paddy Dow, or a stocker, or they prefer a small forward that is built for it, like a Corey Durden. So he's sort of in that middle where he's versatile, which is good, but he has not necessarily locked down his role because I'm still not necessarily sure exactly what that is. He's not that perfect small forward. He's not that midfielder. He's bridging between the two, which I think he can have in the squad, and that's fine. But that's why I have him as someone that's a little bit under the pump this season.
No, I agree, for sure. And I think one of the reasons a player can become under the pump is if there's a bit of hype that isn't met. And I feel like there was a little bit of that last year because I feel like after his first season, we're like, oh, there could be something here. Maybe he's going to take a big step this year. And I personally didn't think he really did last year like we hoped he would. Because we wanted the man to kick goals. And he just doesn't do that consistently. So I'm with you that there is a little bit of under the pumpness there for him.
And the fact that it was so odd for me anyway, that in that practice match, it was, and I understood the other two. I could see why Stocker and O'Brien didn't get the game time. But seeing Gibbons sort of lumped in with those two, he seemed like the odd one out. I was very surprised that he only got like 10, 15 minutes in that last quarter. It was a little bit strange. Do you read much into that, or did you see that as maybe they wanted to see some other guys in that position, or do you see them as maybe having Gibbons on the little bit of the outer?
Yeah, I'm always very particular with way, or not very particular with what I read into and not from practice games, because I like to, go overboard with the positives and then not with the negatives. But I didn't really take too much into it. But now that I think about it more, the fact that they gave Fogarty that run and then Cunningham as well, like they're the two guys that I feel are very, those three are going to be competing for spots.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
If they like Fogarty like you think that they do, then yeah, of course Gibbons is under the pump. For sure.
And it's hard because I also really liked Gibbons when he did come straight into that game. And you don't know how much of that is he's literally just fresh. And all these other guys have played 3 quarters after not playing footy for so long. But he came on and he looked really lively and he looked like he added a bit of that spark that I felt like we were losing in late in the game. We were obviously in front and maybe coasting a little bit. But he sort of came in and brought back that urgency. So he's someone that I love what he brings, and I hope he can cement himself in that best 22. But as you said, there's just those couple of guys that are competing for spots now, and it's going to be an interesting season. I honestly can't wait to see what the team does look like round 1 and then be able to compare that to how it ends by the end of the season, because there's just so many positions that can change.
Yeah, I love it. And I will just touch on my last guy, even though you have already mentioned him briefly. I just want to see something from Gov that is going to keep blokes like you who are that still just love him to death. And I still love him, just not to death. What he's going to show this year, or else I just feel like he's going to lose the support of everyone. I think a lot of fans are starting to turn their back on him already as someone that was really hyped, and now 2 years of being quite disappointing. And I want this guy to be in our premiership window. I want him to be one of those guys, but I think he's really under the pump, or else he's going to lose a lot of support.
I agree. It's really hard as someone that has been a pretty staunch supporter of Gov to still be going, just wait for him to show it. And he doesn't seem to do that. I was having my fingers crossed this preseason that it seemed like it was the first time he had a big run at it. He wasn't injured throughout preseason, was chugging along quite nicely, and I was going, this is what he needed. That's that continuity that I've been talking about the whole time. And then he goes and gets himself injured and doesn't play the practice match and is potentially in doubt for round 1, which just seems to be a cycle now.
I know.
Potentially, maybe he had enough of that bulk preseason that he'll be fine with it and it won't be an excuse for him. But I do agree that he just hasn't shown it. Everything, all that hype that he came into the club with that we've seen in little patches. There's games where he'll have that 5-minute period and he'll kick 2-3 goals, set up one, and you're going, oh my God, there's a player here. He looks unreal. And then he won't do anything for the next 4 games. And you'll go, was Mitch McGovern playing today? It's so... Yeah. He's an enigma. He's a player that for some reason I've just got this attachment to. I don't even think it's necessarily what he's done on the pitch. It's just sometimes you get those players that when they come to the football club, you just love for absolutely no reason. For some reason, for me, that's Mitch McGovern, and I hope he can do it, but he's definitely someone under the pump, especially if someone like a J Sauce, who's now fully fit, most likely will start round 1 because of these other forward injuries. If he locks down that position, going to be very hard for Gov to break his way in.
Yeah, exactly. And that probably pushes us into our next category quite well, because obviously you've got Durden as our second leading goal kicker. You've surely got Gov as the man that's going to kick 50 this year. Are we penciling it in?
I don't, unfortunately.
Wow.
I actually have a bit of an order here of our leading goal kickers.
I like
if you want me to dabble into that.
Please,
so
this sounds great. We'll be referring back to this.
I've gone too hard. I've also done a full AFL ladder and a finals wins and losses to get to the Premier. I've gone too hard in some of my predictions. So I'll start off at Gov because I have him quite high up. I then, against my bold prediction, I have Durden kicking the next highest, then Zach Fisher, and then topping it off is Big H up front. I think he's clearly our big forward at the moment. Without Curnow, we don't know what we're going to get from this season. Harry was our best forward last season, by all accounts, he's just getting bigger and stronger and faster, and he's just going to kick even more snags this season. So pencil Harry in for our leading goal kicker. I'm assuming you have the same.
Of course. He did not even need to be mentioned in the players to watch because the lids are well and truly already off for the man. I mean, that goal from outside 50 that he kicked in the practice game, I'm like, he just looked lovely, didn't he?
Yeah. Exactly. When we get the ball to him properly, it just looks beautiful. So look, we'll jump on to probably the only non-Carlton chatting. Give me your premiership prediction.
I do really like this team. And I'd actually be quite happy to see them win the premiership this year.
I think we've got the same one here.
Maybe we do. I don't know if you like this team, actually. Yeah, I think the Lions are going to win this year. Yeah. Same as you?
I have the Lions as well.
They're due.
They are, mate. Look, I think that big Joey Jojo Jr. Danaher will be the difference between them last season and them taking it this year. I'm glad I bet you to it. I love what the Lions do. I've got a close mate that is a big Lions supporter, so I tell you what, I hear everything that the Lions are doing. They're just one of those teams that I think are due to take that next step. They've got the big forward. It makes sense.
I agree. It just feels right, doesn't it? And I just like so many of those players, so I'd be happy to see it.
Yeah, they're one of those teams when you look at the teams in the top 8 that you're not going to be upset. You think if, we're out of finals, we get knocked out, and you have to try to support someone because you don't want Richmond, you don't want, obviously I don't think Collingwood or Essendon will be in there, but you don't want these other teams to win. You go, okay, Brisbane will be the ones we support to get over the line. But, okay,
Agreed.
The big one here is Carlton's ladder placement prediction.
I'm excited to
Where
hear
do we
yours.
finish? Do we make the top 8? Where have you got us?
I want to hear yours first. You give me yours.
I will give you my top 8 if you want.
Please, I love this.
This is big. I've tried this every single year and I've never got close. So I've tried to be a bit bolder this year with a couple of selections.
Yeah.
So let's see how we go.
Are we saying this is at the end of round 23?
Yeah. I can give you the finals breakdown as well if you want. We'll go further. So in finishing on top, I've got Geelong. I don't think Richmond will do it. I think it'll be someone a bit more niche. I like Geelong bringing in Jeremy Cameron. I think that helps them. Their experience lets them finish on top, but Brisbane finish on second.
Yep.
I've got Port in third. They're still good. Richmond still playing some good footy. St Kilda in the 5th position. In 6th, I have the Doggies. So I think pretty much most of the teams that played around that finals will be there. I've then got Carlton penciled in at number 7.
Bang.
Absolutely beautiful. And then in 8th position, just, breaking into the top 8, I've got Freo, which is a surprise packet.
Wow.
Which means, judging by my ladder, so we finish 7th, we then play the Doggies in the first week of finals. And guess what, Lockie? We love the Doggies. We love playing the Doggies, and we smash them. We then play against Port, who I've got us penciled in against, because it'll be Brisbane and Port. I think Brisbane will win, so we play Port away. Unfortunately, I think we just fall short of that one, but it wouldn't surprise me if we did get over the line there. Boys firing, Cripper playing some good footy. Could happen, but look, that's where I have us. I have us winning one final, going out in the second, but then building on that for the next season. But where have you got us?
Wow. I like the sound of that. I think that sounds like a successful year to me. Winning a final. Gee whiz. I love that.
And I just want to jump in to say one thing. You'll
Please.
love who I've got on the bottom of the ladder. It's Essendon. Bad luck.
Yeah, right. Interesting. I can see that. For sure. Yep.
But yeah, where do you think Carlton are going to finish in season 2021?
Just to say on that, so you reckon Adelaide are going to be better than Essendon, you reckon?
Yeah, I can rattle off the rest of my ladder. After missing out on the finals in 9th, and I'll go down. We got Melbourne, West Coast, GWS, Collingwood, Gold Coast, Sydney, Hawthorn, North, then Adelaide, and then the Bombers.
I was going to say, I didn't know if I misheard you. West Coast, so low.
Yeah, I just think they have a couple of injuries at the moment, and they just won't be able to get there. It's hard. There's so many teams that could make finals, which is going to be hard for us. When trying to pick our position, it was difficult.
Yeah.
I think Collingwood drop off, GWS stay pretty much where they were last season. And yeah, I just feel like West Coast have a few injuries. They'll drop off that little bit at the start, and they just won't be able to recover.
Yeah. Well, that point is exactly why I have Carlton where I do. I think the top 8 teams, the order will obviously change, but I think it will remain the same next year, except that Collingwood will drop out, and I think we'll finish 8th, is my prediction.
I love that.
Yeah.
You're getting me nervous. I thought you were going to say we're going to finish out of the 8. I was going to absolutely roast you there.
No, that is not the optimism we need. I do really think that we will make the 8th, and I think me saying 8 is me being a bit conservative because I think we can do better. But man, looking at the teams from 1 to 6, I'm like, wow, that 6 seems pretty locked in just to me. And then the Doggies, probably that next step. And I feel like us and them are probably on about the same level. I think Collingwood are going to drop off a lot more than people think. I think people are too positive on them. I think they're going to drop off a lot. Melbourne Giants, Freo you like. I like that take. But give me 8th.
And I think that's the thing. If we can get into the finals, obviously it's such a dumb comment, but with some of the teams that I believe will finish in that bottom half of the 8, on our day, I think we can beat pretty much all of them.
Totally.
At the moment, I've got Doggies, I've got Freo, I've got Melbourne. I don't have Melbourne. I have St Kilda, Doggies, and Freo. I think we can pretty much beat any of those on our day if needed. So
absolutely.
Look, let's pencil us in for at least one finals win, and who knows, we might get on a roll. Will we do it like the Doggies did that one year and just play the best footy out of nowhere and take home the big cup?
There it is. Let's make sure we get that clean to use on our premiership episode.
Exactly. But I'm happy we're pretty similar in where we see us finishing. So now we've pretty much done our predictions. We'll be chucking out all of those this week on the socials to get your take, to see who you think will be in all these little categories. But we'll finish off this episode answering a couple of your fan questions. Now, we've got the first one coming in from Clive. We've chatted a little bit about this man, but not a lot. He asks, can Charlie Curnow get back to his best footy?
Oh, wow. Wouldn't that just be like, imagine. That's all I have to say. If he can put together games which has been his best and that's still his best, I will cry.
Just having a forward who can kick 7 goals in a game and just almost, we were garbage and we still almost won that game of footy just because he kicked 7. When you ask the question, I don't necessarily know if he will get back to what would have been his full potential, just because we don't know what his body's like. If he's still as athletic or close to it, 100%. If he's not, I do believe he'll still be an incredible footballer and he'll be such an important, cog for us. Just because his football instincts get him by. He just knows where to be. He knows how to find the footy, and I think that can get him over the line. But will he be able to be, as we were all imagining, the best footballer, the next like Buddy Franklin, of being that athletic guy that your whole career you're saying, should you chuck him in the midfield because he's just that good? I'm not sure if he'll get there, but I still think if he can get fit and get right, I think he still has a lot of important footy to play for us.
Absolutely. If there's any player in our team that I'd love to see push into like our best 3 players, it would probably be him. Like that would just...
I agree.
Put the haters away.
Cool. So I've got another question here. It's a bit of a long one. It's from Jeff O'Day. He asks, do you think the coaches are considering whether to continue going all-out attack at centre bounces by using Williams and Martin rather than locking down on opposition players with, say, an Ed Curnow? If so, is Ed's spot in jeopardy by season's end?
That's a really, really good question. I mean, that's a very interesting thing to think about how we structure it. Do you want to have a go at your thoughts?
I will. I'm happy to. I don't necessarily think that we're necessarily going like all out in attack. I think we're going to find that right balance. I believe from last season we were almost too slow and stagnant And so we may potentially at the start of the season go a little too the attacking way where we get almost too many of those guys like Williams, Martin, Walsh, and just try and throw them all in. But I think we'll eventually find the right balance. Does Ed Curnow fit into that? I think he can. I think there's definitely that spot for him there. I don't think we necessarily need the lockdown position still in AFL. I'm happy to try and, now that we've got some really good players in our midfield, just try and beat the opposition and not have that 100% tagging role.
Yep.
And if we decide to not do that lockdown and we're just trying to get other fast guys around Cripps, then yeah, maybe Ed's spot is in a little bit of doubt, but then someone's going to have to be there if Cripps isn't attending the centre bounce. We're going to have to need those options. So I still think there's a big role for Ed Curnow, but I don't think it'll be as much as it has been in the past, if that's a okay way to answer that question.
No, I think it really is. This is exactly what we were talking about when we were suit shopping the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, we're wondering if, I like how Jeff has phrased it because, yeah, when does our midfield get to a stage where we're like, you know what, we're not bothered by who you have around this contest because we're so confident that we're going to be able to win it out. So, yeah.
It's no longer we're having to worry about tagging them. It's, oh my God, we're going to have to tag Cripps. We're going to have to tag Walsh.
Yep.
We're going to have to tag Williams. And then when Martin's in there, he's killing it. So that's what I want. I want our midfield to be that much better than theirs that they're tagging us.
Yeah. So yeah, I think JV's onto something because I think his sentiment is Ed Curnow's spot in the midfield in danger, and even though we love him and he had a great season, I think it definitely is in danger with the other guys that can go through there. Yeah.
I think pretty much everyone's spot is in danger, which is a good thing. So we've got 2 more questions left. We've got one from our king of this podcast, Timmy Dub. God, I'm happy to be saying this man's name again. He says he's hoping you cover the forward 50 entries and how we'll be different this year. He thinks it's our number one problem to fix. So the question is to you, Lockie, how are we fixing it?
Yeah, wow. How are we fixing it? I tell you, there was a couple in the practice match where I was like, oh, gee whiz. That disposal wasn't ideal, and that was one of my only negatives from the game. I thought I was like, okay, a few of these shanks still heading into the forward line.
Yeah,
how do we fix it? Man, how much did we talk about this last year? Is it the skill? Is it the players? Is it the structures that the coach put in? It's just an impossible question to answer, Timmy Dub, and I know that's why you've asked it because you like putting us on the spot with your great questions.
For sure, it's a really hard one. There were some shockers in that practice match. I hope that some of that was down to the fact that we had such a different forward line, and it was odd. As I mentioned earlier in this episode, it was like we were kicking, expecting there to be those 3 talls just throughout the game in the forward line, but they weren't there. So I hope we can adjust this. One thing I like that I mentioned pretty early on again in the podcast was Mark Murphy being down there now. He's one of our best ball users in the team. So having him closer to goal, there was one assist. I can't remember who he kicked it to, but it was just so beautiful where he just around the body kicks it straight to someone to kick and goal. It's beautiful. I think if we push Willow onto the wing up forward a bit more, I like how he uses the football.
Yep.
Likewise with an SPS, if we can get those guys forward of centre, delivering the ball into 50, it's just going to make it so much easier for these big forwards or small forwards to take marks and kick goals. I've said previously last year that maybe it's also down to the fact that this forward line has not played a lot of footy together.
Yep.
And it seems like we're now putting Mark Murphy down there. Jack Martin, Williams maybe coming in there a little bit. There's still so many guys that are chopping and changing. Sauce, another one. It's just so different every game. So for them to build chemistry, it seems difficult. And for the midfield to know exactly where to kick to, where everyone's leading, I think that's just going to take a bit of time. So I think I'm hopeful that there's some of the reasons why it's been so poor. It's such a hard thing to necessarily answer, but I do like that us chucking a guy like Murphy there. SPS seem to be really running off that halfback a lot better. We've got a Sard that can, run through. We're putting better ball users in the midfield by putting a Walsh in there. We've got Zach Williams. So I think that we're trying to address it in different little ways. I guess it's just up to, seeing how it is implemented going into round one and throughout the season.
I love it. I'm optimistic about it.
So we'll end things with one last question. It was probably my favourite question out of everything we got. It's from Terry at Blue Abroad, Big Tez. He asks, who will give away the most 50-metre penalties this season?
It's a great question.
Boy, will there be a few.
There's so many ways, so many places you could go with this. Do you have one off the bat?
I've got one. I don't necessarily know if you will, but I love my explanation for it if that's anything to go off.
Go on.
So I was trying to look through the squad and see who gives away free kicks. And I don't think there's really a guy that off the top of my head, I go, he always gives away a dumb free kick. I'm not sure we have that guy. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you've got someone. But I was trying to think, this rule, the stupid stand rule, who's maybe got too much energy and will just not be actually physically able to stand still.
That is exactly
It's
where
not that
I
he
went with
doesn't
it.
want to. It's not that he doesn't want to. It's the fact that he can't. I've got two for this.
Yeah.
I'll go my first one. I think Mickey Gibbons. I just feel he has too much energy to stand still. It's not something that he wants to do, but he has to be moving. He's got to be doing something. And but I'll let you take the other one because I don't want to potentially steal it. Who do you have?
Mate, you've already stolen it.
I've stolen him? I'm sorry.
I had two blokes. I had him as the energetic guy. And I had the exact same thought process. Where I was like picturing him how he's always clapping and he just seems to always be strutting from side to side.
Every Carlton Insta story, it's him doing something.
Exactly. So I had him as the energy guy, but then the other guy that I just think will just forget about the rule, it is Ed Curnow. I can just see it happening so often where the man will just completely forget that it was a rule. And blokes are going to be going up to him and being like, Ed, just get it into your head.
He was the only one, I think, to give away the 50-metre in the practice match. So that is something to go off
It will
there.
not be the
I
last.
don't mind that shout. Is that why he gets kicked out of this team? Is it just he's the only one giving away them every week?
Most frees ever given away in a season after coming third in the best and fairest. He's out.
Oh, that'd
Who's
be
your
a
other?
shocker. But the other one I had from an energy point of view, it just depends if this man gets on the field. But there's one guy at this football club that has a lot more energy than Mickey Gibbons, and I think you can guess who it is. It's Matty Cottrell.
Yeah.
He will be the one.
Happy birthday, big
just
man.
Has happy birthday. Love that you and him share the same leap day birthday. It's beautiful, beautiful scenes. Saw him in a Carlton onesie on, I think, Josh Honey's Insta story, which was
So good.
insane. Him wearing that. He might not have even had shoes on shopping. So that's what we want to see from this man. And that is why he will be the one giving up these most 50-metre penalties. I reckon he'd play one game and give like 5 away.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that you went the energy guys. That's exactly what I thought.
It's good to see that we're just on the same level with this completely. Well, look, that is probably going to wrap things up this week. Look, it's good to be back. We've got so much planned for this season. We'll be bringing you so many episodes coming up. We'll be doing a best 22. We'll be reviewing the St Kilda game coming up. Both of us will be there. We're excited to finally see some footy. Fingers crossed nothing happens between now and that game. But look, it's great to be back. See you guys next time.